Hello there, creatures, and welcome to our newest episode of Encounter This. I am James Hema Kid, and with me, as always, is Freeman, Afe Ice Tin.
That's me.
We're coming at you with a brand new style, a brand new format, though we're still the same hirsute white boys.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. And this series will be focusing on Qlippoths, a primordial being with an appearance that affects the minds of others.
And part of our new format as well will be a new emphasis on combat, specifically giving us the opportunity to have a little more experience about fighting the creatures that we are talking about. And we're very excited about this extra step that we've taken. Which is to say, take it away, Cam.
Due to an unforeseen yet happy circumstance, Cam was unavailable to record this for us. So, listeners, unfortunately, you are stuck with my voice yet again. The city of vice and decadence. Vire. A place where anything goes as long as you can keep a secret and have the coin. Its citizens and tourists live in literal sin. Something that the Qlippoths would like to see an end to. The Qlippoths are patient, though, existing across eons, and willing to slowly infiltrate the city-state, worming their way into excesses until it's too late for the citizens to notice. They've already been changed at the primordial level. So join us on an adventure spanning multiple levels as Cam takes Freeman and James through a Qlippoth-themed mini-campaign for your pleasure. Hey there, creatures, and welcome to Encounter This, a podcast exploration of the creatures from Pathfinder 2nd Edition and the lore that surrounds them.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to Encounter This. We are talking about Qlippoths, as we said. And the first thing we have to talk about, and this is going to be a little reminiscent of what, again, some of our more dedicated listeners know. When we did Illithids back in the day, we had to do a little extra legwork on the universe and the mythos and the setting. So we want to talk about the Great Beyond.
This Great Beyond.
That's the Great Beyond right there. This image is courtesy of the Rage of Elements book, also reprinted in the GM core with the remaster of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. The Great Beyond, Planes of Existence and the Multiverse. This image is reasonably important in a lot of everything that we play in this game, especially if you're sticking to Galarian lore. You can see that it's a bit topsy-turvy and not super linear because the complications of the physical and metaphysical world are not.
Yeah, drawing a three-dimensional space in two dimensions is always going to be challenging.
And then trying to go beyond three-dimensional as well presents its own challenges.
Right.
So you can see at the bottom left of this screen, those are the planes that kind of, they overlap each other. Well, the top left planes are layered. So that Creation's Forge, Ethereal Plane, First World, the Universe, which is the Material Plane, the Void, the Netherworld, they are all overlapped in the same space. Outside of those, we have these other planes, the Inner Sphere, they're referred to as, and you have your elemental planes there. You can see it in that image, the universe kind of in the center there. Altogether, that makes the Inner Sphere. And that Inner Sphere is held within the Outer Sphere, which is the other side of this image. There are some very notable changes to the remaster I thought worth mentioning because they changed some of the names of these planes for licensing reasons and all that. So the Material Plane is now called the Universe. I'm sure from forever we'll both screw that up. The Positive Plane has changed to the Creation's Forge. The negative plane was changed to the Void, which I like that one, actually. The shadow plane was changed to the Netherworld, which I dig as well, but that's one I will definitely screw up along the way. And it is worth noting that the planes of metal and wood were added to those layers as a recent development in the lore. So previously, they were not there. It was just the other four. And the most important one for us in the outer sphere is that the abyss was changed to the outer rifts. This is the one that is key to our topic on the Qlippoths.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit of incredibly ancient history. When the Proteans, which is one of the oldest, most primordial groups of beings that we know of in this universe, when they themselves discovered forms of life separate from the maelstrom, because for them, life was nothing but the maelstrom, they realized that other forms of life must exist. It was like a huge revelation for them. And they discovered the maelstrom did not go on forever, which was the big thing. And instead, it rested upon what was known as the abyss, what is now known as the outer rifts, which they regrettably cracked open. And they found inside alien societies that were already ancient once they had got there. And this was the outer rifts and the Qlippoth. So you can imagine, the primordialness of the creatures we're about to talk about. They go back a very, very long way. Let's take a moment to talk about the outer rifts themselves.
Before we jump into that, I do have a question about this image in particular. The ethereal plane, is that made up of all 5 of those planes? So the ethereal plane is Creation's Forge, First World, the Universe, the Void, and the Netherworld?
No, it's, as far as I know, it's its own separate plane, and it lives in tandem in the same space as all of those other ones.
Okay, because it's not, like, it's on the image, but it's not pointed to where it is. So I was wondering if that was like the entirety of the overlapping planes.
Oh, I see. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't go hard into my research on that one because it's not part of the topic at hand.
No, that's fair. I'm just looking at the image.
But I did notice that it's actually not pointed towards one of the layers. So
I was wondering if
good point.
But it's clear that it's called the overlapping planes, but the ethereal plane is just there.
Well,
like the void.
Maybe the ethereal
Forge.
plane. Yeah, the ethereal plane is the culmination of the overlapping planes. You could be right. I'm not sure. I'm genuinely not sure.
Well, I mean, right. This is an awful image.
I don't speak
this
in 4D.
Doesn't get any right. Yeah, I mean this image in general doesn't get any of these concepts across. So worth revisiting before you republish for a third time. This definitely needs some real work.
I can tell you the previous one was pretty. It still had a lot of complications, but to a degree, I think it's supposed to. I think it's not supposed to be super clear in every aspect. So it would be nice to have a little clarity on that particular point that you've brought up. But but yeah, it's meant to be mind-bendingly strange and impossible to sort of consume and imagine and interpret.
Okay, well, just. Yeah, that no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Shall we talk about the outer rifts?
Yeah.
So the outer rifts, they are described as nothing less than a corrosive rot in roots and basically antithetical to reality. The rifts are a place of pure horror, malice, and destruction. It has countless regions that uniquely form around types of chaos and ruin. The strong survive, the weak suffer or are destroyed, and it is no wonder that this place is ruled by
demons.
Right. Not Qlippoths.
Not
It is not
Qlippoths.
ruled by Qlippoths. Natives to this plane are self-destructive and chaotic, fractured and disorganized at best. And the rulers there fight over dominion of the plane as much as they invade other planes to spread chaos and destruction elsewhere. Demons rule this place. But before the demons ruled, the nightmarish original natives of the plane were indeed the Qlippoth. So one must wonder what happened, how, why, when. Well, let's not talk about when. I don't think we can process the when.
We can barely process the where.
Beyond the scope of this adventure. So yeah, it is a big question to beg. So let's talk about the Qlippoth. Ruling the outer rifts long before demons, quote, in what is probably immeasurable time as it is, the Qlippoth ruled, of course. And primordial is an appropriate term, very appropriate, since they predate Asmodeus creating hell itself, apparently, which is a totally different plane of existence.
Whoa.
Yeah. Or
That's one of
any
the first
deity paying
planes.
attention. Yeah, they predate any deity paying attention to Galarian at all. In fact, before all mortal life and most immortal life to boot. They are
Whoa.
exceptionally old. In fact, the Proteans, creatures born of the primordial chaos of the Maelstrom, claimed that when the Outer Rifts first opened, the rest of the great beyond, the Qlippoths were already there. And the shift in power occurred within the Outer Rifts when mortal sin was introduced. So what kind of time we have between what time we have between the discovery of the Qlippoth and the cracking open of the Outer Rifts and mortals existing, we don't really know. But they basically existed and did their thing up until that point. And so the reason why this is important, mortal life and the material plane or the universe, the point in which that was created is the turning point for the Outer Rifts, because what are considered to be sinful souls, those souls interact with the essence of the Outer Rifts. And when that interacts, it creates a demon. So the Qlippoth were pushed into the deepest reaches where they currently still seethe with rancor at the loss of their realms, quote. They consider themselves the rightful rulers, after all, of course, born of the plane's essence itself, no sin required. But rather than warring with demons currently, they have instead dedicated themselves to the destruction of mortal sin itself, which is the source of demonic power and dominance.
What a novel strategy. Attack the problem.
Attack the problem. That is to say, the destruction of every creature capable of committing sin. That's their goal. And because they basically just need to stop the increase and reproduction of demons in order to get their land back. To do this, they basically infect prey and transform them into something incapable of discerning right from wrong, thus alleviating them of the potential of sins. And quite literally, the transformation causes them to be unjudgeable within Pharasma's court, which means they cannot become fiends of any kind, and in turn cannot join the ranks of demons. And it specifies fiends in this lore, but to me, it reads as a bit of a catch-all strategy in that no sin means no souls to Abaddon or hell either. But no right or wrong means it must extend to no heaven, no nirvana, no Elysium. Perhaps only Axis is the realm that exists that's viable as an afterlife if they were to accomplish their goal. Because it's, but I also don't know if Axis can gain souls without Pharasma's influence and judgment via a court. I don't know off the top of my head. But that is their goal, is to eliminate the possibility of sin, regardless of the repercussions to other planes, only for the purposes of preventing more demons to exist on and in the outer rifts. Pretty wild, eh?
I mean, attacking supply lines is a pretty standard wartime strategy.
Yeah. In this case, though, probably the loftiest goal of supply lines ever. Yeah, because let's be real, mortals be sinning all the time.
Well,
which is why demons are so powerful. There's so many.
Well, yeah, I guess in this particular context, there is theological examples of sin and evil, like they're physical manifestations. They're not interpretations like they are in our world. So, like, definitively, on Galarian, definitively, being proud of anything will make you a demon, is what I'm getting.
I mean, it's probably not that like, oh, I'm proud of that farm that I just tilled. Probably safe, but yeah, it is there is a physical manifestation of these things. If you get into the research on the rune lords at all and how rune magic turned into sin magic, it's a very real physical manifestation that is, if I recall correctly, an addictive substance, basically, if you get into sin magic, which is why the rune lords were as powerful as they were and did what they did.
Well, and they took the Sith strategy where there can only be one.
Right. Yeah. for each of the 7 sins kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Or at least one high lord or rune lord. To borrow a Pathfinder parlance, which is to say to borrow the correct parlance. Yeah.
Bang on. Nailed it. What's more to all this, too? What's more to all this is this seems to threaten the power of several planes, as I've implied here. Perhaps the entire chaotic balance of the cycle of souls itself, right? Because if they accomplish removing all sin, the cycle of souls kind of becomes defunct at that point. And it really stands to reason that the Qlippoths are antithetical to reality. That's why that phrase is sensible for their goal, to matches their goal, because they seek destruction that would disrupt the balance of the cycle of souls without seeming to care about the said balance that would be lost, on every side of it. They really do want to not live in the current reality, is what I've gathered. What changed for them? Reality changed for them when mortals and the universe were introduced, and sin was possible, and then it combined with the essence of the outer rifts. That changed everything for them. So I don't want to say they want to go back in time. They don't want to go back to the way things were, but the current reality that exists is not the reality that they are happy with, and they would see it changed.
Right. Okay. That actually plays pretty aggressively into their real world counterparts without me having realized it until now.
Cool.
So that'll be interesting when we get there.
That's very exciting.
Antithetical to reality is just such an oblique statement. Like, I can't even wrap my head around the concept, much less the words involved.
Yeah. It does really give you some Lovecraftian alien mind vibes, right? So, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm not like a big Lovecraft guy. I never was. I've never read any of his work. Mm-hmm. So like this just kind of reminds me of like aberrant horrors, which I know is the general theme of his work, but I'm lucky that I can separate those two in my mind, because these are not that.
Yeah, they're not quite the same. They're not shoulder to shoulder with that sort of element, and like the Lovecraftian stuff does exist in Pathfinder. We've covered some already. Sure. But it's certainly reminiscent. I'm sure there's definitely some relationship that happens along the way, but all things are connected ultimately in a universe like this. But it is not. It is reminiscent of, but not explicitly that Lovecraftian vibe, and I dig it. But let's talk about a very important thing. Let's talk about Qlippoths and their relationship with demons. Now, the thing we can't gloss over is the change in rulership in the Outer Rifts. We know it switched from Qlippoth to Demon, but we can't deny the fact that it was a long and brutal war. The Qlippoths were more powerful, better established when it began, but the demon hordes were effectively endless, and more importantly, spawned at a much faster rate, thanks to those pesky mortals sinning all the time like a bunch of greedy little pigs. That's what they did.
Yeah.
And the demons reaped the benefits. But the shift was slow because the Qlippoths were, maybe not prepared per se, but very well entrenched. So it was slow, agonizingly slow, in fact, but inevitable. And now the Qlippoths barely cling to what little territory they have left, barely at all. Hence the shift in strategy from all-out war to targeting the sinners. They have to change their pace. They have to change their strategy if they want to see any amount of success.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy's sound, right? I feel like I'm supposed to pick a side here, 'cause it's a conflict, and like sports and wars, you pick your side.
Yeah.
These both suck. Like, I'm not gonna root for demons or Qlippoths.
It's kind of flipping the enemy of my enemy idea on its head, because like the enemy of my enemy is much worse than my enemy in this case.
Right?
Should they get back into power? I don't know.
Who's worse, demons or Qlippoths? Like, I legitimately, like, Qlippoths just sound like they just want to do their own shit and go home.
Mm. Well, keep it in mind if you can when we get to the next episode, because I'll give you some real good example. We're not going to be covering all of demonhood in this suite.
Okay.
Spoilers, not covering all that. That's huge. But I will give you some real good reasons to hate Qlippoths later on.
Oh, great.
They
okay,
are brutal. Good. They've been pushed back in this brutal war. It's slow burning. They are slowly losing, and they have changed their strategy, sort of. We'll get into. But like I said, they are stuck in much less territory than they used to have. So let's talk about Qlippoth realms. So one of the things about all of this, it's not just time that's incalculable. It's also space. So the territory lost is impossible to understand. What remains is impossible to understand. There is a strong implication that it is significantly less than it once was. It's still probably extremely vast beyond what we can imagine. So they still maintain the assumed vast lands, just extremely small in relative scale to the past. And these territories, these realms, these lands are within what we would refer to as the deepest depths of the plane. Conversely, some sages actually have posited that the Qlippoth may in fact still hold more territory than demons. And the reason they suspect that is because demons are so directly linked to mortal souls that mortal souls mostly interact with layers they control, and have thusly assumed that is the majority of the Outer Rifts. Hard to say. Of course, we're being given a lot of vague rhetoric to jumble around in our minds.
Yeah, 4D chess.
Yeah. And the truth may be that the Qlippoth have endless swarms of their own, even waiting for an eventual move against mortal life. Maybe they're saving up. Maybe they have all this backup, and they just have opted out of the war. And there's a lot more than anyone suspects. But no one is ever really sure.
Taking their ball and gone home.
Exactly. Yeah. And they maybe they assume it is the worst for them, and maybe they're just like no longer on the radar. It'd just be like, okay, yeah, we've mostly defeated them. Sure, they give us trouble once in a while, but why bother? Certainly not going to chase them down.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a demon wanting to go into the maelstrom.
For real though. And we will cover in certain points, not in the tremendous detail, but like we'll cover tidbits tidbits of evidence that of conflict, of wandering of demons, of pointless slaughter and destruction on both sides, as we talk about the sort of the big wigs, as it were, in these realms, and where they've because it is the outer rifts. It is rifts, like plural. It is separated into so many places. It's really going to be difficult to cover most of it. It'll be in it's kind of sparse detail because they don't give you too much detail anyway. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see little tidbits of evidence along the way for all of these facts. I think you're going to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But let's.
I mean, that could be the subtitle of the show. Encounter this more than you could possibly want.
And yet still not enough.
Oh, God.
Let's talk about Qlippoths and the relationship to mortals just really quickly. As you can imagine, Qlippoth have no love or even desire to understand mortal life. To them, they are simply the source of demonic power, and the demons must be starved of it, plain and simple. They have no concept of influencing mortals to avoid committing sin. So instead, it must be death and total extermination. That's literally the extent of their relationship with mortals. Full stop.
That's valid.
Ends there.
I don't imagine too many U.S. soldiers had a great relationship with the corn in the cornfields they burnt down when they were going through them in France. Like,
there you go.
You starve the enemy. Like, it makes
it.
a lot of sense, and it is apparently a very effective strategy.
Mm-hmm. We'll see a what feels like a borderline contradiction to this when we talk about the Qlippoths that have gone out of their way to mingle or accept demons. Because there is a divisiveness in there, and there is a lack of cohesive strategy and cooperation amongst the major Qlippoth lords, as they're called. And so there is to an extent, the whole thing and all the research that I've done, it really embodies chaos. When we go back to that original alignment kind of strategy of things, like we're talking about the abyss, the outer rifts, it is chaotic evil. It is the epitome of that. And everything around it is chaos and uncontrolled. And there are personalities to these lords and to these Qlippoths, to these creatures. They have desires, and they have the ability to enjoy things or despise things, and we are meant to understand the implication of them still being alien to us. But there is something very obviously relatable to them, as you'll find out as we explore them. And so this particular full stop that I've done here, that is for Qlippoths specifically, the ones who are still truly Qlippoths. They do not care. Demons must go. They don't necessarily work together to make it happen, but demons must go. Mortals don't matter. That, my friends, is your introduction to Qlippoths.
Thank you so much, Freeman, for that wonderful intro to Qlippoths and how they relate to the world of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. But I'm going to take you all on a journey into our world, into our combined, shared history, into Judaism.
Okay, wasn't expecting that. Tell me more. Convert me. Let's go.
Okay. So, as usual, the standard disclaimers apply. Not a scholar, not Jewish. I did as much research as I possibly could, but I'm one man who's doing this in their spare time for your entertainment. So let's keep all those things at the forefront of mind while I fuck this up. Which I think we might just clip that bit and throw it into every episode. It's going to be every episode from here on out. Amongst others. Yeah. Okay. So there are a couple of definitions we need first. The first is Kabbalah. So this is a school of thought centered in Jewish mysticism. The definition kind of actually varies depending on its followers. The original meaning is reception or tradition, referring to any sacred writing after the first 5 books of the Torah. Okay. Today, we know those books as the Behir, the Zohar, the Hayam. Oh, fuck. And they're all recognized as Kabbalah works.
Okay.
But for this particular episode and the Qlippoths, we're going to focus specifically on the Zohar. So, in the Zohar, the Qlippoths are referred to the Qlippoth, and in other texts they're referred to as the Qlippoth, Qlippoth, or KLIPPOTH. They're all those spellings will be available for you on the website if you want.
I don't think anyone wants. But they will be there. That's our dedication. Yeah.
So that directly translates to a husk or a skin or a rind or a shell or a peel.
Okay.
They can be infused with a specific style of energy. So in this case, the one we'll be talking about is the Qlippoth, which is a negative shell. But I believe further on down the line of the Zohar or the Torah, they just get rid of the Qlippoth and all Qlippoths are negative energy. But that was...
Okay.
There are a lot of books.
Mm-hmm. There were a lot of books.
There were a lot of books, yeah. The first time I was able to find mention of the Qlippoth or Qlippot was in the Bereshit A, which is analogous to Genesis, verse 110. Mm-hmm. I think it's called a verse. I'm prepared to be corrected on that. But we've got a direct quote of the first time Qlippot or Qlippoths was ever used in written text, as far as we know. So, Qlippot upon Qlippot were created, one above the other, to conceal the inner part. All this occurred to complete the light of the inner part, because without a shell no fruit can be had. This is the reason why it is written. Let there be lights without vav, which means a curse, because of the Qlippoth that emerged due to the diminution of the light of the moon. All that was done for the perfection of the world. Therefore it is written to give light upon the earth, as these Qlippoth emerge in the secret of the shell that precedes the fruit. So what I take that to mean is that Qlippoths were around before even mankind. As this verse specifically, I believe, takes place before anything that happens in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. And I think, yeah, it does. It actually kind of has to. Mm-hmm. There are obviously some things here that are
uncomfortable.
Yeah. There. It is implied that anything created under the light of the moon, who in this context is definitively female, is evil. That's the implication I got from my reading. I hope it's incorrect, but this is a very old book. So take that what you will, draw your own interpretations, do your own research.
Yeah, because that line, let there be lights, I'm not sure what without Vav means, but let there be lights, which means a curse because of the Qlippoth that emerged due to the diminution of the light of the moon.
Yeah, so without Vav means without curse. So it means let there be light that's not cursed because the Qlippoths that came out during the light of the moon are evil. Yeah.
Crazy.
Again, that's my interpretation of it. This is a holy text. There are many interpretations.
Especially, what was the year you gave us? 12 to 13 something?
Well, that was its first publishing date.
Yeah. How many times have it been translated?
A lot. Even this copy, I believe. So this copy was a combination of English and the original Aramaic, and it's very challenging to read for an outsider.
Yeah.
For crazy reasons, but go check it out. Like it is long for sure.
Yeah.
And that's about all I'm going to say about it.
Fair enough. Moving on.
So Qlippoth is used mostly in the text, which seems to be neutral in general. And Qlippoths or Qlippoths were created by God to serve as a function and a shell for spiritual energy. And like we talked about, some of them, specifically those created under the light of the moon, are representations of evil. The Zohar does list a few specific Qlippoths. They're listed as foils to Sephirots, which are emanations, which are angels, as far as I can tell.
Whoa, hold on. They're what? What are they called?
Sephirot.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just had, okay. I didn't know that was coming. I have a pop culture reference. That's a rare one.
Okay. If it's Final Fantasy VII, get out of here, because it's not.
It sure is. Yeah. The one-winged angel.
Yeah, the one-winged angel. Yeah. Which actually might be. I don't know for sure. Sorry
to interrupt your role there. I got excited. I never have pop culture references.
So there are 10 channels through which God reveals his will. And there are foils to all of these, but the Zohar didn't seem to give names to all the Qlippoths that I could find.
Okay.
I may have mentioned this already, but I had to go to a physical library to research this, and there's like 13 books in there, and they're each about 1,000 pages, plus an index and a prologue, and there was a lot to sort through. Even the index was like 900 pages, so I did what I could.
Okay.
The number one priority here is SAMAEL, who is INIQUITY, and then everyone else is kind of underneath that.
Okay.
So we have Mashith, who's the destroyer, Aif, which is anger, Hema, which is wrath, Tohu, fire, and Tehom, which is deep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're only really going to talk about one here, and that's SAMAEL. SAMAEL. Those are all of the pronunciations that Google Translate would offer me. This figure is akin to Satan in the book of Job. The key difference here is they weren't necessarily evil. They were just an angel of destruction. This was just their job. They were defined as evil because they were born under the moonlight, but this particular Qlippoth was just doing their job. And because of that, SAMAEL becomes the angel of death in Judaism. And they were even the figure that helped encourage Adam and Eve, though he rode a snake instead of being a snake.
Okay. I know one other SAMAEL that has a closer relationship with death.
God damn it.
Still too soon?
No, I think it's been okay. It's still too soon for the lady.
It still hurts. It still hurts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll never not hurt putting that much effort into something and having them last a full 2 hours.
Yeah. That's for your Stemming the Tide listeners here at Uncharted North, plugging the other podcast. Go, go, go. Catch up, my friends.
Yeah. So that's where we're going to call it. That's about as much of a primer as I could possibly give you on this arcane analysis companion to the Torah. Qlippoths are in there, and it is their introduction to our world, specifically that term and that concept of them being a container, a place where souls can go. Not necessarily good, not necessarily evil, just they exist. Which is pretty similar to humanity as far as I can tell.
Yeah, so there, yeah, it's a very vague kind of thing. Are they angels? Are they souls? Are they people? What are they exactly? Obviously, entities of power. It's hard to navigate, why and how they are evil, and like you implied earlier, what they seem to like go across quite the range, but we're only left with the Qlippoths for some reason, just the negative shell ones, as opposed to the what we assume is a full
my
range.
impression. I
Right,
did
yeah.
not read the entirety of the Zohar, and it's been a full 20 years since I read the Torah. And I
Sure,
did not
yeah.
understand it then, and I probably wouldn't understand it now.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if this is a sort of hidden behind the scenes interpretation for the Pathfinder lore of before that Outer Rift's shell was cracked. Did they have a sort of full scope of their own kind? Not necessarily bogged down by the idea of good and evil and chaos and law, just like this is what they were in their full scope, whole cloth, as you like to say. And then when they were cracked through, a new reality is introduced. When mortal sin came in, yet another new reality is introduced, and now they are nothing but Qlippoths, because that's what they have to be. They've been almost forced into this corner because what they are doesn't exist. Doesn't exist non-violently and cooperatively in the new reality. They don't synergize with it, and so we've mysteriously lost. It seems like with this stuff with the Zora, we mysteriously lost a spectrum of them, but maybe it's just that reality switched and they were always this way. It's everything else that's been added to the equation that becomes the problem.
Yeah, it's the compounding. Anyway. Yeah, I think in Pathfinder they're the same as they appear in the Zohar. They're just shells. They're just entities that exist. They have no preconceptions of good or evil. They just are. So the reason Qlippoths are filled with negative energy is because they were born on the light of the sun. What makes them negative energy is
light of the moon.
Thank you. The light of the moon. What makes the energy negative isn't God's will. It's not their being. It's our interpretation of the acts that they do.
Right.
SAMAEL doesn't think they're an evil being. They're doing a job that has to be done, which is destruction. It's like it's like burning a forest to prevent a forest fire. It doesn't make sense, but we still need to be doing it.
That sort of evilness is being inferred upon them from our own perspective. And how what they do affects us, right? It is evil for us, not in their intention per se.
Exactly. Did he bring the Great Plague? Sure. Was that a cool thing to do? No. But I guess Nazis were just following orders too, but
there is that.
All right, I convinced myself they're evil.
You know what though? I think we're both a little bit surprised at how the IRL and what little lore we've discovered so far does intertwine. I'm perhaps a little bit more surprised that we've managed to make it connect so naturally for ourselves. Finding the connection. I think it's or finding a connection anyway, which is just interesting. It's kind of the point of what we do, right? To have those inspirations. So I'm very excited to see what other information you have. I'm excited to share the information that I have for the next part, to further expand upon this idea of a change in reality, evil or no evil, where and how this sort of creature exists in an expansive world, and how they want to just take it all back or change it back to a way that works for them. It's a really cool topic.
I had so much more for you because there's so much more out there. But the Vancouver Library's occult section is non-existent. They don't have a single book by Aleister Crowley. There's so like the concept of Qlippoths was just absorbed by the occult and dominated. And we'll talk about that in the next episode. Right. Well, it's been a while, so thank you so much for checking this out. We hope you enjoyed the first episode in our Qlippoth suite. If you liked it quite a bit, you can head over to patreon.com/unchartednorth. $5 a month gets you a handwritten thank you letter and some other goodies. $10 a month, you can suggest the next suite, but that price might be going up based on how much work these episodes are, so get in while you can.
Yep.
That $10 tier also includes a discount code for our merch store. There are also higher tiers, 25, I think, and you can find it all over there. If you want some sweet gear, like our Critty hats, stickers, t-shirts, anything like that, you can find all that on unchartednorth.com/shop. All of our socials are in the description of whatever player you're listening to this on or watching this on. If you want to follow along with the show notes, you can head over to encounterthis.ca, where this will all be posted, as well as a pretty hefty, I guess, bibliography. I know that's not works cited. I guess is probably more accurate than a bibliography.
Yeah.
There will be a pretty hefty works cited accompanying this. I've gone out of my way to document all of the sources we touched upon. There are no footnotes because I am not that hardcore, but I really, really considered it. So if you want me to do footnotes and like a proper works cited, that
will be the highest tier possible.
If you're an audio listener and you want to check out some of the visuals, you can head over to youtube.com/@EncounterPod. Big thank you to my co-host Freeman for doing all that Qlippoth Pathfinder 2e lore. Big thank you to Cam for everything they've done to help us out with this suite. This is no longer a two-body production. Cam is essentially a full-fledged member of the Encounter This crew, and we could not ask for a better partner from them. They have just been spectacular, and we know you're going to love those combats because we certainly did.
It's going to be fun. Yeah.
If you're on the YouTube, hit the bell, hit subscribe, all those things. You know what you're doing. And if you're on audio, rate and review on your platform of choice, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all really help us get views out there because we are labeled as explicit. Those platforms do not want to show us, but I don't want to censor what I say.
Yeah, fuck that.
Even if those are swears. Yeah, exactly. So it's very difficult for us to get out in front of new viewers because we don't censor those things. So one way you could help us out for free is just tell somebody. Tell a friend. Tell somebody on the bus.
And one thing's for sure is
even
if we did avoid swearing, some of the content we're covering can be quite gruesome. Which you will find out.
There are some images coming up that you're gonna wish you were an audio listener for. I'll tell you that. For real. Yeah. So because coming up, we will be. I don't know what James has in store per se, but I can give you the slightest sneak peek. We will be talking about the very powerful Qlippoth lords and those who became demon lords. We'll see you in the next episode. Until next time, creatures, thanks as always for listening to Encounter This.